Throughout history, free thinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Ali Rizvi. With me is Armin Navabi. Armin, how are you?
I'm okay, I guess.
You're okay?
Yeah.
You guess? Yeah, you're all right.
I'm trying to make sure everything is right. Okay. Good.
Okay, so today we have a very, very special guest, and I want to dive right into it. We are with Jordan Peterson, Professor Jordan Peterson. Welcome to the podcast, Jordan. How are you today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity. You know, the secular jihadist is just packed full of meaning. What does secular mean? Well, when you break it down, all the secular definitions we have is from the Judeo-Christian sort of religions. But at the same time, jihadist, I don't know a lot about Islam, but from what I know, jihad is not a good word. So I'm not quite sure what you're trying to mean here when you say secular jihad.
It's a cowboy word. It's like from the southern parts of the United States, you know, when the cowboys go jihad, like all the time, when, you know, the other horses. That's basically how it is.
Yeah, well, it's very hard to be a cowboy now with the patriarchy crumbling, with all the feminists and the SJW and the postmodernists. You know,
right.
To be a cowboy is to be a rebellious act nowadays.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I think they prefer the term cow person.
Okay, guys, let's go.
Bovine person. Welcome. Of course, that isn't as convincing as that was, and I think that as articulate and brilliant as that was, we'd like to welcome to the podcast.
That was good.
Veedu Vidz, I'm a huge fan of Veedu, Waleed, you know, whatever you go by with. And I know that I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people who've just been watching it. And one thing that you call it, beating bigotry with a smile. And I love that because we've talked about this actually on this podcast a lot, that we always have these conferences where, you know, people are giving speeches and we're talking about sort of everything's sort of very cerebral and intellectual, but I would love to see more of the sort of the secular element of the Muslim world, or ex-Muslims, or, you know, atheists and agnostics in the Muslim world get into music or comedy nights, stand up, you know, write TV show pilots. So you're actually one of the very, very few people who's doing it, and it's hugely effective, and it's so much fun, especially at this point. So how did it all start? How did you get into this? How did you know you could do your impressions?
Well, in the beginning, there was nothing. I'm joking. So before I get started, just want to say, massive fan of both your Armin and Ali, and you're doing a fantastic job. I see you guys as this sort of godfathers of this kind of thingy movement in North America. Oh, wow. So it really is an honor to be on the show. So how did it all start? Well, I think from a young age, I've always been interested in taking the piss, as we say in the UK, taking the mick, mate. You know, and at the same time, I was very much interested in religion, in Islam. I don't know why. That's not to say that I was necessarily the most devout. Like, I wasn't like 100% of my prayers all the time, but intellectually anyway, I was very fascinated by religion, and I always liked acting and taking the piss. So I suppose I just sort of married those two interests together. And growing up in the UK, I used to see a lot of white comedians take the piss out of themselves. And I mean, it's a very British thing to be self-deprecating and sort of say, oh, we're so bad, we're so this and we're so that. And I used to find that really funny. But then I realized, where are the Muslims doing that with their own religion or their own culture? The furthest they went was race. So we had this thing in the UK called Goodness Gracious Me. I don't know if you heard about it. It's genius and masterpiece.
I was a huge fan of it. That was like, exactly. I had like 2 or 3 VHS video cassettes of it where people had just recorded it, and we used to watch it all the time.
It was hilarious. It was funny. It was edgy, you know, at the time. And even when I watch some videos now, some clips, it's still relevant, you know. But that's the furthest we went. We only went to race. And I thought, well, religion is a gold mine full of jokes you could possibly make or skits you could do. How come no one's touched religion? And that kind of just annoyed me, because even when I was a Muslim, I'm like, listen, guys, we need to lighten up. We're taking things way too seriously. So I suppose when I kind of left Islam, I was in between jobs. Didn't have anything to do, so I was interested in religion. I had this comedy thing, so I just thought, you know what, let's just see how this thing works. I'll make a few videos, I'll put it on YouTube, and whatever. If people like it, I'll continue doing it. If they don't, and here we are. So I guess people liked it, and there was a demand for it. So that's how it happened, really.
Can you give us a few examples? Like, can you we did Jordan Peterson? Can we do should we do Majid Nawaz?
Are we putting you on the spot?
Sorry. So no, it's fine. So what was that? Sorry, it just cut out. Sorry, you want to do Majid Nawaz?
Yeah, Majid Nawaz.
Okay, so let me just. The thing is, you've got to get into the hole. So, right. Well, you see, the thing is, Ali, if that's your name, the progressive left have dominated the narrative when it comes to critiquing certain religions and certain things in politics. And for me, as a Muslim, as a secular Muslim who believes in British values, it's about taking the conversation back to liberal principles. So that's what I would advocate. And, I've been called Uncle Tom and a jihadist at the same time. Can you imagine that?
This is, the reason why not that many people can do this, but you can, is because you really have to understand their philosophy and their talking points. And you have to really be deep into this community, because it's not just about their voice. Like you also hit on the main key things that they usually, and you twisted it around a little bit to make it comedic as well, which is awesome. But I think this is why somebody like you, it's not something that anybody could pick up. Like, you have to be part of this community and also have the sense of humor and also be able to do voices. So I guess, so it's amazing.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's what one of the things that kind of annoyed me, because I've seen some other people take the mick out of Islam, but they don't really know that much about it. So when you see it, it's a bit cringe. Like okay, it's like almost like someone on the playground. Nah. Like, it's like, oh, do they wear like a dot on their heads? It's like, no, that's not Muslims. So if you really want to take the mick, the best way for me is that you don't actually lie about the person you're taking the mick out of. You be as accurate as possible and just twist it a tiny bit. So just enough so people can be like, oh, that's kind of silly what he's saying, or isn't that kind of funny? So yeah, you're absolutely right. You've actually got to know these individuals, and I usually watch hours and hours of the people that I'm taking the piss out of, and I actually do respect them, even if I disagree with them. It takes a lot of courage to do that.
So Abdullah Samir is in the live chat, and he was he mentioned exactly what I want to mention next, because he said, "Hi, Zakir Naik." Waleed, and that is your main character, right? And is that how it all? Yes. Is that the main character that it all started with?
Yes, Zakir Naik. He's responsible for my stardom. I'm just going to be honest. If it wasn't for Zakir Naik, no one would know who I am. It's because I just happen to have the right kind of tone in my voice that I can mimic him somewhat accurately.
Yeah, I never thought I'd say this. I never thought I'd say this, but thank you so much, Zakir Naik.
Thank you.
Actually, guys, for the people that don't know who this is, can you just give a really quick one-on-one intro? Because this guy is big in the Islamic world, right? So just a quick one-on-one.
Indian preacher, right?
Yeah, he's basically like an Indian evangelist, Indian Muslim evangelist, and he's like the William Lane Craig or those kind of personalities, but in India and the Muslim world. And for probably about 10, 15 years, I came across him when I was 16, so maybe just over 10 years ago. And he was huge. Like, this guy would fill out stadiums and just hold like 100,000 people at an event, whatever it is. No big deal.
This guy is bigger than Sam Harris. Huge, like this. Okay, go on.
This is like the Indian and Pakistani Muslim communities, that entire population. I mean, Sam Harris is just fringe compared to that.
For the people that don't understand how big these people are, just imagine. I don't even know what to compare it to, but like, these guys are celebrities. But go on.
Like a U2 concert. They're like YouTube.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Can you do as a
Well, actually, no. Instead of just doing it, I like what you were telling us. Like, earlier.
Okay.
How did it come about, the Zakir Naik? How did you discover you could do it? And could you tell that story as well?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I was a massive Zakir Naik fanboy. I used to watch his lectures, like from beginning to end, TV, YouTube, any opportunity I get. Massive fan of his. So I've watched hours of this guy. And also, this happened many years after, though. I was speaking to one of my friends, and he just happened to come up in the conversation. And, I was like, oh, do you mean Zakir Naik? Isn't it funny how he does this, General 5 verse number 2, the Quran is mentioned, whatever. So I just said that in passing. I wasn't doing a skit or anything. And he just stopped and goes, how did you do that? And I was like, do what? I was like, that voice. I'm like, oh, you mean General 5, verse number 2, in the Quran is mentioned, whatever. I was like, oh, and then I didn't realize it was there. Because I think subliminally, I've been listening to his voice for so long, so many years, it just got etched in my brain. And that sort of accidental conversation just brought it out. And when I realized, damn, I can do his voice.
We keep losing.
Of course, I was going to take the piss. There was no way on earth that it's like, of course, I was going to take the piss afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's that, really.
And what would you say to him if you met him today?
Well, firstly, I would kiss his hand and say thank you so much for educating me on Islam and giving me the voice. You have literally given me a voice when I had none. But I don't know. Honestly, I think I would probably be starstruck because I've been watching him so long on TV. I would, instead of being like, "Oh, Islam is this," I was like, "Wow, man! Can I have a picture with you? Can I have your autograph?" Yeah, it probably go like that. I probably wouldn't be like, "Oh, you're an idiot." Whatever.
And can you give us an idea of how he would respond?
Before you do that, just to give just a little bit more understanding of how big this guy is. When you debate with Muslims online on Facebook and Twitter, there's a high chance that at some point they're going to send you one of his videos and tell you when they give up on you, like, just watch this guy and you will become a Muslim. You will understand if you listen to this guy, you will just get it. So at some point you're going to get a video from this guy, and every time you watch it, like, what the fuck did I just watch? But
no, you're absolutely right, because I send his videos to other people as well. Like when I used to get into debates with my friends in university, like obviously non-Muslims, he's the first guy I used to go to and say, "What's this guy's videos?" They'd be like, "But what are you sending me? What is this guy?" No, trust me, it makes sense, man. It makes sense. No,
yeah, Abdullah Samir is saying that when I asked what would you say to him, Abdullah Samir is saying I tell him to go back to medical school. So that's also something that some people don't know, that he is a physician as well. Yeah, but so
a medical doctor. Sorry. No,
but tell us, if there was Zakir Naik talking to the secular jihadist and telling us what he thinks about us, if he even knows us, what do you think that he would say?
Oh, that's a good one. Mother, let me tell you, mashallah, there's a lot of nur on your face. But the problem is that you're using the wrong kind of jihad. It has to be a Muslim jihad, not a secular jihad. What is this secular jihad? What does it even mean? Tell me when the Quran, it says, Chapter 5, verse 2. Where does it say that you have to do secular jihad? This is a Western concept. You have been completely misled. Oh, that's the question.
Oh, I can't get it. I can't get enough of this. This is incredible. You had that video, I think, a video where you had a conversation between, I think there was Zakir Naik, there was Jordan Peterson, Dawkins,
Milo,
and Majid and Mehdi Hassan. Yeah,
that was one of the best.
Yeah, you had all of them, and there was a video of, I think Armin showed that to.
Thank you for that. Majid. Thank you. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
I didn't show. I had recorded Majid showing it to Sam and Douglas.
Yes,
Majid was showing it around. I recorded him with his permission, and I also asked his permission if I could post it. Showing it to Sam Harris and everyone else around them.
And they were laughing their asses off.
Oh yeah.
Like they were watching you essentially, doing your impression of them.
Yeah,
at least doing your impression of Majid, and they were laughing. It was really, really funny. So just generally, comedy in this whole, we have the ex-Muslim movement or the secular Muslim movement, whatever you want to call it. I know there's a lot of elements into it now, and people like identifying it as a whole bunch of different labels within it, which is a great thing because that means that the movement's gotten a lot bigger. Some people don't even want to call it a movement. But anyway, your entry to this, what do you think? You talked about the importance of self-deprecation. So I know that's you see this with British comedians. You also see a lot of, it's the Jewish comedian the tradition, right, is self-deprecating humor. And you're right, like there really wasn't a whole lot of people apart from Goodness Gracious Me and maybe Mind Your Language and some of these really, really old shows.
That was good fun, yeah,
that was really good. And there weren't a whole lot of people doing this when it came to Islam. And, when you had the whole Salman Rushdie thing and, in Bradford in the UK, people burning his books and the fatwa against him, it would make sense, I guess, that probably anybody who was thinking about it decided to maybe back off that idea. So you've brought this up and you've started doing it. You've got a lot of a big following now. You've got a lot of YouTube subscribers. What is the reaction? Have you gotten pushback? Have you pissed off people?
I would say that you may or may not realize it, but Muslims actually enjoy this because Muslims watch these guys all day long. Right? Yeah. If I show some Tom, Dick, or Harry down the street who doesn't know Zakir Naik, he might be like, yeah, that's a funny voice, but he won't get it beyond that. Muslims are the ones who watch Zakir Naik, who watch Majid, or who watch whoever, and they get the jokes more than anyone else. So I've had so many messages from Muslims saying, I'm Muslim, I support your work, you're really funny, and keep doing what you're doing. People expect Muslims to be completely outraged all the time. Oh my God, this is terrible, burn this guy, whatever it is. But when I've been outside, and I have been recognized a few times, are you Zakir Naik, bro? Yeah, Spider. Cool. Yeah. I'm not a Zakir Naik, bro. So, people, you'd be surprised. People appreciate this. And I'm telling you, my whole goal is not say, okay, I want Muslims to leave Islam like that. My whole goal is, can you laugh at yourself? Can you just realize that everyone is as stupid as everyone else. Everyone's got flaws in their beliefs, whatever it is. So is atheists and so is everyone else. Can you stop pretending like your shit doesn't smell as bad as ours? Right? Can you just recognize that we're all human beings and we have something to laugh about? And the quicker we can get there, the more chance we have of having a fruitful discussion and stop being so thin-skinned in any discussion or debate where someone's asking challenging questions or making a bit of an edgy joke. So my goal is, can you just laugh at yourself? You stay Muslim, you can pray, fast, do whatever you want. Just laugh at yourself. And I think people actually want this. Obviously, there's a minority of people or a dominant vocal minority who don't want to make jokes, who want to sort of demonize anyone who asks the wrong questions or make the wrong jokes. But underneath that, you would find a lot of Muslims are secretly laughing. And people say, I'm Muslim, I want to share, I love your jokes, but I can't share your videos on my Facebook because I'll get a heap of criticism. So the demand is there.
So I have a question. Have you thought about making a new series with some characters like Muhammad, Aisha, Ali, Abu Bakr? Just go through the whole stories and the hadiths and everything that happened, and you just make a Muhammad character that you just you give it a personality, give it a voice, and just stick.
You can make him a skater. That'd be cool. Just a skater
boy.
It has to be somewhat would be somewhat believable. I think that would be amazing. Then you could dress up as Aisha and do Aisha, and all the drama that went in that. That would be amazing. I think.
I guess that's there's one element to the. I remember what you're saying, like a Life of Brian type thing.
Oh man.
Are we there yet? Are we at the point
we're not even there yet?
Do a Life of Brian?
This is going to sound very condescending and sort of paternalistic, but I just think this. In theory, yes, you're right. We should be able to do that, but the reality is Muslims are not ready. By and large, some Muslims can handle it, no doubt. But unfortunately, it won't be seen as, oh, this guy's trying to say something intelligent and funny. It will just be seen as, this guy needs to be killed.
Not by everybody. I think secretly people would enjoy it. Some people would enjoy it. You have to make him. No, you have to make him somewhat ridiculous, but also somewhat lovable at the same time, like a naive Donald
Trump. You're talking about step 2 or 3. We're going. We're talking about getting past the very first step of actually having somebody play him.
Exactly. Exactly what you just said. We're not even there yet. We're not even 2 steps before that. I wouldn't even depict Muhammad in any, even in a cartoon manner, just because the way I've thought about it is, and this is my own strategy is, my parents, they're Muslims, my family are Muslims. They're very reasonable. They don't really care about, Sharia, whatever it is. But they pray, they fast, eat halal, all that kind of stuff. Your sort of typical Pakistani family. Would they enjoy it? Or would they even get it? Could they even last 10 seconds watching it? If they can't, then there's someone who I would personify as my main audience.
Okay.
I'm not catering towards the Salafis because they'll say no to everything. But the normal Muslim, if the message can't even get to them, then I can take this so much. But if it's not working, it's not working.
How about you make fun of everybody and Muhammad? How when they make Islamic videos, because you want to have a Muslim audience, right? You don't want them to go away, right? And if you make Muhammad videos, they're gonna go away. But not if you make everybody else in the stories of Muhammad except Muhammad, and Muhammad is just like looking at the the camera view. How you're not
I see.
Like,
you've seen the movie The Message, right?
I love that movie. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So I grew up loving it too. But so in that case, if you did something like that, but it was sort of like a satirical comedy type thing.
Aisha is funny, Abu Bakr is funny, Ali is funny. I know she has women like that, but it doesn't matter. You will still have a Muslim audience because Muhammad is not being shown. But you can make fun of the whole story, all the stories, all the hadiths, right?
Yeah, but Veedu, one thing you said is actually that resonated with me because when I was writing my book, I wanted to. That was my goal too. Like I wanted to. I have a similar kind of family as yours, like where my parents are relatively. I mean, they're very, very moderate, if not liberal. Yeah. They're completely okay with me doing the stuff that I do. I mean, they not completely okay, but like it hasn't.
I get exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it hasn't caused any kind of like the fracture in our relationship. But when I wrote the book, I wanted to make sure that if my mother actually likes my book, even though I skewer the faith in it, I wanted to write it in a way, and I was very deliberate in a way that that it would have a Muslim audience too, and it did end up having quite a bit of a Muslim audience. So I do get that. And I guess that's to Armin's.
You guys are.
Wait.
Okay, go on.
Armin, no. But to what Armin was saying is that is there a way to bring that satire element in? Like even if we don't do Life of Brian, can we do like a comedic version of the message where you're not showing Muhammad, you're not doing that, you're respecting some of those basic things.
I don't want to respect.
Now you respecting some of their sensitivities in a way. Well, you are. I mean, that's what we're talking about. But you're also bringing in. You're still going there.
Okay, guys, but I don't.
Yes.
Can I just say something? This whole thing about respecting people, respecting them because you wouldn't have an audience. I think that's nonsense. A lot of when I did the Allah is gay is video, I've never had more Muslims adding me as a friend than after I did the Allah is gay video. Because they wanted to come and reach out to me and preach to me and bring me to the right path and stuff and ask me what the hell was I doing. A lot of people say like, oh, this is the way you're going to get a Muslim audience. This is the way nobody's going to talk to you after I got this. I have more Muslims in my inbox now than I ever had before because of that. So it was exactly the opposite of what people warned me about. So I don't know if that's true. If you disrespect them, they're going to be too sensitive and they're going to ignore you. I don't buy it.
Did you have more Muslim supporters and you got death threats for it, Armin? Because you got a lot of death threats for that.
Well, no. Okay, so here's the thing. I got more death threats and I got more hate than ever before. But I also got more messages of people just wanting to peacefully talk to me than ever before. Both of them were more than ever before.
But anyway, Veedu, sorry, we're talking.
Yeah, so I mean, that's an interesting point. But I don't know if you're going to visually depict even forget about Muhammad, but even like a companion like Abu Bakr or Ali or whoever, in a comedic sort of taking the mick kind of way, I don't know if right now, even me personally, I'm comfortable with that. So forget about Muslims, even myself, I'm thinking purely from a strategic point of view, is this necessary? Yes, I might get some people saying, brother, do this and brother, do that, and that might spark some conversation. But I'm just looking at it from a strategic point of view. I may alienate or just completely shut off my target audience without realizing it. And some of them will be like, yeah, this is fantastic work. I don't know if a visual, me holding a sign saying Muhammad's a pedophile or Allah is gay is one thing. Me acting like them in a visual way is, I think, it's a different level, personally speaking. So that's what I mean, I get your enthusiasm, but, I don't think we're there yet. Trust me, honestly. I get what you're saying.
Right.
And there is this balance. There's this balance of like going out and Like, you know, you do want to fight against this. And then you fight against all of this sort of like religious hypocrisy and even, you know, Islam or Islamic fundamentalism, whatever you're fighting against. So you want to do it, and you want to do it honestly, and you don't want to hold back. But at the same time, you also want to do it in a way that's effective. You don't just want to make a point. You also want to make a change. How do you do both? And that's always a debate. There's, you know, and Armin's right. Like, when you do overtly blasphemous things, that does have an effect. Like, there are people who do hear that kind of really aggressive approach, that in-your-face approach, and they appreciate it, and it's effective. You know, we've all experienced that. People getting really pissed off by what we're saying, and then coming back and saying, "Oh, you know, later on that, you know, you're right. I'm on your side now." But then there's also the other aspect of it, especially when it comes to entertainment, comedy.
But you're also normalizing it and setting a new standard for what's acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the way, Abdullah Samir is asking a question in live chat. I also want to let everybody know our live chat are basically our patrons that are watching this live. So thank you to all the patrons in the live chat. He wants to know, he's saying he would love to know Waleed's goals and dreams.
Wow. Well, firstly,
censored version.
Sorry?
I was going to say censored version.
Yeah, I want to be in a room with Ali and Armin naked, everything.
Okay, let's go. That would be terrorism.
That's if you got more than $100 on Patreon. That's that show. Okay, anyway.
No, if I take off as much as take off my shirt, that would be terrorism.
We can make that a goal for 5,000 patrons. Or no.
Yeah.
Okay. So firstly, thanks for the question, Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum. What my goals? I think. I've always been interested in acting and sort of comedy skits and that kind of stuff. So maybe some sort of, I don't know if you call it a movie or a show or something along those lines in the entertainment industry. Of course, I like satire, political satire, religious satire. So something along those lines would be something which I would always aspire to. I've always been interested in that. I actually did one of the main inspirations or main motivating factors behind my this whole acting thing is, well, I went to a Muslim school for 3 years, and my history teacher, who was a convert to Islam, he also went to Eton. You know, Eton private school, very sort of elite, and
that's
he was
where Prince William or something like that. Yeah,
vast majority of prime ministers in the UK go to Eton. It's like boys' school, private, top of the range, whatever, elitist. He went there, and he was a very smart guy, very, very knowledgeable guy, and also a very, well-reasoned, moderate kind of Muslim. So he converted to Islam. He's a white guy, and he wrote, that play by Christopher Marlowe, The Demise of Dr. Faustus, where he sells his soul to the devil and that kind of stuff to get the riches of the world. This old play. He adjusted that, or rather adapted that, and made it The Demise of Imam Faustus. So there's this Imam Faustus, and he falls for the Satan and the wealth of the world. He made this drama play in a boys' Muslim school, and some teachers were not happy about it because, drama, they're not a big fan of the arts and acting and this and that and music. Anyway, he stuck to his guns. He made it, and he made it very, very well. I was recruited, or I played Satan, lo and behold. I also played Jennifer Lopez and Vanity, who's also female. So I was, by the way...
It's quite a range.
It is. So I played 3 characters. I was as they call, the dentist, the most muscular, hairiest guy, and I played 2 females. And I played Satan. So I realized when I was on stage, I was performing in front of my parents, in front of other Muslim parents and other people. Like, I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything, but I did very well. And I realized, shit, I'm actually pretty good at this. And I want to give a massive shout out to him, because if it wasn't for him, a Muslim teacher doing drama in a Muslim boys' school, do you understand? Like, I think one of the things that Muslims are really missing out on is the arts. Like, we were talking about this before about comedy and music and all that kind of stuff. We can get lost in the intellectual conversation, which I think is necessary to refute these claims and whatnot. But at the same time, we have to have fun. We have to express our individual talents. And I find that especially within sort of immigrant communities, Asians, Arabs, and whatnot, doctor, lawyer, engineer, accountant, if you're really bad, all that kind of stuff. But where are the artists? Where are the singers? Where are the actors? All that kind of stuff, technically speaking, is haram. You will have to, the amount of resistance you would have to go through to pursue something like that. Forget from the outside world, from the inside world.
We've got Sinead O'Connor. now.
Oh yeah,
but we lost Zayn Malik.
But you lost Zayn Malik, so yes. I don't know. It's a bit of give and take on that.
Yeah.
But so for me, my goal is to, talk about sort of ambitions, is to really just pursue the arts, and not just for myself, but to open the door for other Muslims as well, and other ex-Muslims, or whatever you want to call it. We're really, really missing a trick in this. And I think, what you can watch in a movie potentially can be so much more inspiring than, maybe like a 3-hour debate on is there a God or is there not a God. Everyone has a different sort of what do you want to call it? Different things resonate with different people. And as someone who's interested in acting and music and satire, like some of one of my biggest inspirations was Ali G. Check it. I see it with none other than my main man, Ali Rizvi. Yo, how's it going, Pete? Like all that kind of stuff. I just found that absolutely hilarious that he's speaking to very, very clever people in such a stupid way, but that stupid way is actually more intelligent than the conversation that they think they're having. And anyway, so those are my inspirations, and I think Muslims and ex-Muslims really need to explore the arts and stop being so scared of it, and do the poetry, do the music, do the arts, or whatever it is, and that's one way that we can combat this sort of very restrictive and constrictive way of thinking, which is a sort of more Salafi or Wahhabi kind of Islam.
And I think it's not just something that benefits us. It also is effective. And this is a point I've made before on the shows, like, and Kim Jong-un, when you write op-eds and books about him, then he feels legitimized, like, oh, I'm a player on the world stage. But when, Seth Rogen makes a movie about him getting his head blown off, a satirical comedy, then he loses his shit and shuts down, the movie, and, it pretty much terrorizes the U.S. into not releasing the movie. Same thing with these jihadists. You have New York Times op-eds about them all the time, and you have discussions and conferences about what to do about jihad, and it goes on and on and on. But when you draw cartoons, or if you make fun of them, that's it. So it actually is effective in reaching that goal too. It's effective in making them realize that no, you're not such a big deal. Like, we're not only laughing, we're laughing at you too. Like, this is the mockery and satire. And all of these, like the Jon Stewart show, all of these things have been sort of instrumental. Those Donald Trump, same thing. A lot of these sort of megalomaniacal people who tend to be in power, he doesn't care if you criticize him legitimately, but the moment a celebrity says something about him, or you make fun of his hands, or you do something like that, then he goes crazy. So I think that's it's not just something that benefits us in allowing us to be able to laugh at ourselves, but the worst people that we are trying to target and trying to fight, I think it's a much, much more effective way of doing it, because it makes them, they want to be taken seriously. Their whole thing is like, take us seriously. And we do. Like, they do something, we respond, this is very serious, this is very important, and that's what they want to hear. We're giving them the reaction that they want. That's why they're doing it. But if they, at the moment we show them, okay, we're not taking you seriously, you're still the joke. That is, I think, what drives them crazy. So, and that's why I think what you do, and doing comedy and bringing satire and all of these elements into the conversation are so important.
All right, so before we go to the next question, I forgot, can you also do a Richard Dawkins one? That's one of my favorites as well.
Okay, so the backstory of Richard Dawkins, I kind of got a bit, I wouldn't say my Richard Dawkins is the best, but when he had that interview with Mehdi Hassan, about that famous one, and I was watching that. Horse. So, okay, so you're an intelligent man. Do you seriously believe Muhammad flew to heaven on a winged horse? Yes, I do, actually. I believe in miracles. I believe that, wherever he does his little thing. And he goes, are you, really? Are you telling me Muhammad flew to heaven on a winged horse? I mean, seriously. Whatever. And then he goes on to that. I was a Muslim when I was watching that. And even I felt like, bruv, come on, don't say yes, don't admit it. And he's like, yes, I believe in miracles. I believe in, God did this and God did that. He's got a tiny bit of this, but Mehdi Hassan. It's so gratuitous. How would you even ask that question? It's like, but I'm a scientist. I don't care about your feelings. I care about what is true. And that is what a scientist must do. Always pursue the truth. Yes, but you have to understand that this foreign policy and, colonialism has contributed to the radicalization of the Muslims. Yes, but is it in their books? What is the punishment for apostasy? What is it? Anyway, there you go. So he does that as well. Whenever he's like sort of sick and tired of a Muslim, what is the punishment in your books? What is it? Whatever. It's death. Yes, I got you. Whatever.
Yeah. He knows that that's the go-to thing that they can't do.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Believe in a winged horse. Whatever.
Winged horse. That was one of the best. That was so good.
Actually, I haven't seen that. I should go watch that one.
You haven't seen that's like the most famous thing. Like Mehdi Hassan, he owns all these guys, but the one time he couldn't is when Richard Dawkins had him by the balls. He's like, no.
And on something so simple. On something so simple, the winged horse. I mean, that's an immortal clip. I mean, you can't recover from that. No matter what.
Have you seen the one with Richard Dawkins and Deepak Chopra when they have that sort of argument kind of thing? And
Wait, can you do Deepak? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and then Deepak's is like, everything has consciousness. In the I don't know what he was even saying anymore. And then he was like, in the stream of consciousness, we're all connected. And, what about poetry? What about God? What about literature? All these things are so inspiring. And it's like, Richard's like, an atom, are you telling me an atom has consciousness? An atom has awareness. It knows where it is. Whatever. He goes, yes, but you're subjecting us to some sort of word salad or whatever. He just goes on and on. And I just thought that was... And then Richard, by the end of it, he's got his hand like this. He's like, whatever, like this. And he's like, I don't think we'll ever meet again, because your blood pressure is through the roof. It's too high. You're not going to, whatever. I go, whatever. And that was the end of that. But I just thought that exchange was amazing because he's being so flowery and so vague, and everything is consciousness. Me and you and God and poetry and literature. All these things are the arts. Well, you can't deny that, or whatever. And then he's like, yes, but an atom does not have consciousness. Whatever. It has awareness. Okay, well done.
Yeah. So after this whole thing happened, the Zakir Naik, huge fan, watch hours of him and all that. When did you realize that it was all just BS? Like, when did you leave, and why did you leave Islam?
With Zakir Naik, I actually stopped listening to Zakir Naik many years. Actually, was it many years? I don't know. I actually stopped listening to Zakir Naik a long time before I actually left Islam. So I wouldn't say that once I stopped listening to Zakir Naik, that's it, I left Islam. But one of the turning points for Zakir Naik was he was saying all these amazing things and debunking the Bible. I mean, quote unquote, debunking the Bible and whatnot. But when this was by the way, when he was banned from the UK, he was asked in an Oxford University debate. I don't know if you've seen this one. He was in India, I think, but he was speaking to students in Oxford University via sort of internet. And one person asked him, "You go to the West, you go all around the world, you preach your religion, and people can convert to Islam in Western countries. Can someone preach Christianity?" I think the guy was a Christian. Can I preach Christianity in a Muslim country? Your understanding of a Muslim country. And he gave the most non-answer. Well, you see, it depends on the law of the country. You have to ask them first, and then you can see if you can. So he basically didn't even answer the question. He said, it depends on the country. And the guy's like, is that a yes? Is that a no? Whatever. Now, on a Muslim channel, in a Pakistani channel, he was asked exactly the same question. And he said, no. We would not allow Christians or Jews or whoever it is to preach their religion. And the guy asked him why. And I actually made a video of this. He goes, if you have a maths teacher and you ask them what is 2 plus 2, the first one said 2, the second one said 3, and the third one said 4. 2 plus 2. The first one said 4, the second one said 5. Who will you hire? You will hire the person who said 2 plus 2 is 4. Because that's his understanding for religion. Islam is right. So you would not allow for anyone preaching a wrong religion because 2 plus 2 is 4, therefore Islam. 2 plus 2 can't be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So Christianity is a false religion. These are all false religions. And that was his way of reasoning. And I was like, you don't understand. This is a freedom of choice, freedom of religion. People can preach, people can leave. And that's when I realized this guy is full of crap. And that's when I actually was a bit turned off him, to be honest with you. But my whole out of Islam story isn't as interesting maybe as other people's, but I felt the more I researched into Islam, and I was someone who was one of these people like, oh, Islam and science, they're like bros, like Islam and science, like the one thing. But, I was one of those guys, like, I'll be like this, whatever.
Did you ever read the Maurice Bacall book?
Yeah, I've got his books. Yeah, me too. I've got his books, and the whole that's probably one of the reasons why I like Zakir Naik, because his whole thing was, I'm really good at I know science, and he kept going with science and religion. So when I realized like Islam isn't in line with science, and the more and more I researched into it, I just was like, okay, so it's not talking about science, it's speaking metaphorically. And then I went through this whole metaphorical thing. Everything is a metaphor. Virgin birth, that was the one thing I could not metaphorically get around. Because there is no metaphorical interpretation of a virgin birth. Virgin birth means virgin birth. There is no, well, it means this and it means that. I could get around a lot of other stuff, but I couldn't get around that. And it got to a point where I was having a conversation with some friends in I think there were three of them, 3 Muslims. They were like normal. They weren't Salafis or crazy guys. They were educated and they were, liberal, whatever, progressive minded, whatever you want to call it. And one of them said, "Oh yeah, like he mentioned something about prayer. He prayed for something." And I obviously didn't believe in prayer in the sense like of a Santa Claus, sort of gift list, whatever you want to call it. Right. I thought prayer was more mental conditioning. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to mentally condition yourself, you meditate. Nothing wrong, but I didn't think it was like, I want this. Okay, God. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, a lot of actually moderate and liberal Muslims think of, I know my parents used to think of prayer that way too. It's like something that helps you more than really asking anybody else.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And bearing in mind, I was a Muslim at this point, and bearing in mind, I did not like Sam Harris, Dawkins, all these atheist guys speakers. I used to hate them, but I used to watch them because I couldn't stop watching them, but I used to hate them.
When was this? Around what time? What year?
This was before I left Islam. I used to hate these guys, but I always used to watch their videos because something, I don't know, there was
we're talking like late 2000s, right? After all their books.
This is like the 2000 and maybe 13, 14, 15 maybe.
Oh, yeah. So this is really recent.
Yeah, okay. I left Islam like 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, so
welcome.
So I was talking. Thank you. Marhaba. So I was speaking to these guys, and someone mentioned prayer. So I said, "Oh, prayer. That's a bit hit and miss, isn't it?" Now that's what I said. Like, hit and miss. He goes, "What do you mean by that?" He goes, some of your prayers come true or are answered, and some of them don't. And that just like struck a nerve with all 3 of them. So what are you saying, that God doesn't listen to your prayers? I'm like, well, I mean, if you want to say, yeah, for sure, he listens to the prayers, but only, some of them come true, some of them don't. And that just sparked a 2-hour conversation, or more of a debate, or a sort of interrogation.
Wait, what were they debate? Like, were they saying they all come true? I don't understand what they showed.
No, so then they said, well, it's hit and miss. Like, it doesn't really matter if you pray. And like, well,
that's not even a sensitive thing to say.
I know. I was so like, I wasn't even trying to diss or even start a debate. I was like, oh, it's a bit hit and miss. And I remember Richard Dawkins said exactly the same thing a long time ago. It just kind of stuck in my head. And then they said, so what are you saying, that when the Prophet told you to pray, that was all of a waste of time? I said, well, I mean, yeah, okay, fine, you can pray, but don't expect anything in return. He goes, what have you prayed for and that hasn't come true? I'm like, I prayed for a lot of stuff that hasn't come true. Oh, yeah, but that wasn't Allah's will. He did something that was, he gave you something that was better for you. He didn't give you that thing. I was like, okay, so if God wants to give me something that's better for me, it doesn't really make a difference if I pray or not. Because if God wants something to happen, he'll make it happen. If he doesn't want it to happen, he will make it happen, regardless whether I pray or not. So, and so what are you saying, that when the Prophet Muhammad said this and this in this verse, that if you pray on Hajj or if you pray in this situation, he prayed as well? And I'm like, oh, then obviously as a Muslim, oh, well, his prayer was obviously more than my prayer. So me as a human being, I mean, this went on and on and on to the point where all 3 of them, they were just vexed. They were just annoyed. And right at the end of the conversation, he goes, you know what, Waleed? You think like Richard Dawkins. You think like an atheist. And that was like a stab in the heart. Because I'm like, I am the furthest thing away from an atheist. I can't stand these guys. They don't know anything about Islam. And you're going like, he might as well call, like, if I was a black guy, he might as well call me an N-word. Like, I was like, bro, I am not I'm a born Muslim. I'm a die Muslim. You're going to tell me, my own Muslim brother, that I think like an atheist.
It's funny how that's an insult. Yeah, okay.
That was the biggest insult. I'm like, you're going to call me an atheist? those bastards, they don't know the first thing about Islam. They don't know the first thing about anything. Where do they get their morals from? Whatever. All that typical kind of stuff, right? So I left just like, obviously there's a whole backstory behind that, but the sort of last the last straw on the camel's back was my own Muslim brothers. I felt like literally, and they weren't, by the way, I don't blame them for what they were saying, because I was thinking like an atheist, i.e. looking at it rationally and saying, well, come on, it doesn't really work like that, and blah, 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 blah. And they were just a mirror pointing out to me what I was saying, but I was too dumb to realize that I'd already kind of, and that day, that night, I was like, science has gone out the window. Morals and ethics, not really. So what's left? What part of Islam do I actually believe in now? What is holding me actually in Islam, other than identity and family and all that kind of stuff? But realistically, on paper, which one of my views derives from Islam? And I was like, I don't know anymore. I don't know. And even psychologically back then, I was too scared, even in my mind, to say I don't believe him, that I think that the Prophet wasn't perfect, even though because obviously it's ingrained in you as a young kid. Prophet's perfect. He did this, he did that. I just said I don't believe in Islam. But even then, for some time, I couldn't say anything bad about the Prophet in my head because I was too scared. But that night, I realized, you know what? These guys, they're not actually being idiots. They're actually being honest with me and they're saying to me, bruv, you're not, what part of you is Muslim? So, yeah. My Muslim brothers did to me what Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins couldn't. Just saying.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of how it happens. I mean, my wife has a very similar story about how it happened with her too. How did your parents react?
Can I ask one before you go to parents' reaction? Mars Chang in the live chat, one of our patrons, is asking, can we ask what kind of a pushback he gets from social justice warriors?
I don't know if I've got much pushback, or if I'm on their radar, or maybe if I am on their radar, they're not really paying that much attention to me. I don't really know, to be honest.
When I met you in London, you seem to be interested in some other hot and heated topics that you're going to be.
Yes.
So I noticed that you seem to be very interested in stuff that will get on the radar of social justice warriors. But stuff that you haven't done comedy on yet, but you have done very interesting live discussions on your YouTube channel, right? So I'm very by the way, you're not just a great comedian, you're also a really good interviewer. Like, you have your serious videos are also very interesting. Like, you ask really good questions when you're interviewing people, interesting people as well. You bring on your channel.
One of the interesting people is yourself, I was.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, by the way. That flew by. But would you be doing comedy about a non-Islamic topics, and what are some of those controversial topics that you might tap into?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, Islam was my sort of entry point into YouTube, whatever. I don't plan on doing Islam forever or always about Islam. I want to do stuff about, for example, racism or SJW or whatever it is. Free speech is another important one. And I made one video about Jordan Peterson. After that interview with Kathy Newman, that terrible. So what you're saying is that interview.
That line became so famous now. So what you're saying is, and something, So what you're saying,
I'm not saying you have to agree with the guy or worship him. Ask him tough questions, but at least understand what he's saying before you insert. So what you're saying is females are stupid. No. Well, I'm not sure I said that. Whatever. So,
but that's the thing. I'm not a big Jordan Peterson fan, but on that, I completely defended him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 100%. So, I would like to talk about race and all that kind of stuff, and just in an honest and
you're even
brutal
touching on sensitive topics like race and IQ. You're even going there, aren't you? That's very.
Listen, 100%. For me, listen. Whatever the truth is. It doesn't care whether we like it or not. So if, for example, I'll even go the opposite way, I'll go worst case scenario. You know what they say is true. I think it's Jews first, then it's East Asians, then it's whites, then it's brown, black, whatever. Let's 100%. Let's assume, for argument's sake, that is the case. Now what?
Yeah.
Are we going to screen? If that is what it is, then don't you if that is the case? I would want to know.
Right.
I
I'm
just want to know what is true.
Very brave
if it's not true, then let's refute it.
Right. So
it's actually Ashkenazi Jews, the Sephardic and the
Ashkenazi Jews.
So are you gonna? But now, so far, you're doing like serious video discussions on that. Are you planning on doing like a comedy on those topics as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do. I would love to do that. I mean, before I had this whole idea of doing Veedu Vidz, me and my friend, we actually did some videos that. We were planning this. I actually made 3 videos before I made the Veedu Vidz channel, and I took them. My friend took them off because he didn't want them to be on YouTube, whatever it was. And they were actually non-religious, completely non-religious. They were on the Illuminati. They were on. This is ages ago now. This is about the Labour Party guy, David Miliband. He lost out to his brother Ed Miliband, and we made like a joke out of that, whatever it was. And we made some football. I don't know if you know anything about football. Arsene Wenger. I don't know if you know, he's the Arsenal manager. He's a French guy, and he speaks like this. And sometimes sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, whatever. And we made fun of Jose Mourinho. Sometimes like the best thing. So he said, what did he say? The best team lost. Sometimes in football you have this thing, and the eggs. It depends on the eggs. You get it from Waitrose, you get it from the corner shop, whatever. So I was making videos and this kind of stuff beforehand, but I just kind of got. The one thing that I do find annoying is that I'm kind of pigeonholed into Islam. I get so many guys. When is your next Zakir Naik video? When is it? I'm like, bro, I'm so bored of that guy, honestly. But I feel like sometimes I have to do it because I know some people are expecting it. But I would like to do videos like taking the piss out of race and racism, SJW on the left and the right, the alt-right, whatever it is. So that is a sort of something which is in the pipeline, I would say.
Right. Amar's in the live chat is asking, has he received threats on his life for being blasphemous? How has he dealt with those with respect to his satire and comedy?
I haven't received any death threats. Unless you're going to count, bro, when I see you on road, I'm going to smack you up. Like, I get those kind of comments on my YouTube, but I don't really take that seriously, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do you think that, so you're in the UK, right? Do you think, are you worried at all that the direction everything is heading in the UK with regards to the free speech and making fun of Islam or saying, are you worried about that at all? Do you, or is it exaggerated? Go on.
I think, listen, the news and media, like on some level, they do exaggerate and they do sensationalize. That's with everything across the board, right? But I do think there is a worrying trend within Europe or within Britain about when it comes to free speech and what you can and cannot say. And I feel our British politeness has, like, people are taking the mick out of that. And there comes a point where you say, you know what, mate, you can be here, you can have your mosques, you can have your schools, whatever it is, but there are certain non-negotiables, and free speech is one of them. There comes a point where you've got to put your foot down, and when I mean foot down, I don't mean get violent or anything, but just do not compromise on certain principles or certain values. And I feel like I don't know where our collective balls have gone, and the only guys that are gonna, this is exactly. I don't know where our balls have gone, and honestly, sometimes I'm a bit worried. Like, the only guys that are speaking up about this are people on the fringes. So you'll get people on the far right, or even other people even don't like to use that term. But let's say, for example, people who are not in mainstream media, who are, I say right, they're not even technically right, because a lot of these guys were ex-Labour supporters. But anyway, people who are a bit rough and roundy, like Tommy Robinson, those kind of guys, or people like him, who are going to say things and you're not going to like the way they say it, and then you complain, and then you get into the debate, is it racist, is it not racist? And unfortunately, they're the only ones standing up for free speech. So I say, if you don't like what they're saying or how they're saying it, how about you stand for free speech in a more mainstream way? Like all these left, I don't know if you heard about this Count Dankula.
Taught the dog the Nazi stuff, right? Yeah.
So
that was comedy. That was comedy, and he got arrested for it.
He's clearly taken the piss.
I mean, do you think that, have you guys watched the music, like the comedy Springtime with Hitler? That song, like that, when it came out, that was years ago. Everybody loved it and made fun of it. I don't think that anybody would be able to produce something like that now. I mean, back then, we were like, this is just fucking comedy. But now I think now if somebody wanted to make that, everybody I don't think it would get a green light. And again, this is Europe, right? This is where all these free expression values came from, and now it's being challenged in the birthplace. And you're so right, because I hate this so much that the main advocates for free speech is now perceived to be a right-wing thing. Yes. Like it's coming from the right. Like, no, this is free expression is a liberal thing. This is a liberal value. Like, I don't understand how it's being perceived to be a right wing. I don't know, man. It's so
because they've co-opted it, right? Like, I mean, one of the ways to do it is if you have nowadays, especially in the US, if you have some of these sort of alt-right or racist type views, you can sanitize them and sort of legitimize them by saying, hey, I'm a free speech advocate, so I want to say this about these people. So a lot of times you can disguise your racism as righteousness.
But you do that they managed to do that because the people that were supposed to be the champions of free speech are not anymore. So now they get to take it.
Armin.
No, well, I mean, here's the thing. They free speech, if it was freedom of speech, freedom of views that are not kind of like questionable, then it's like it's worthless. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't even need to defend free speech if it's not if it's not the freedom of ideas that not all of us are sure if they're
that
okay
are
or
offensive.
not. Yeah,
often. Yeah. So
I mean, people always say like, oh, well, they're taking advantage of it. Like, well, they're supposed to take advantage of it. That's what it's there for, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with
you. That's everybody should take advantage of it. Like, oh yeah, free speech is good and all, but now it's being hijacked by racists. Let them take advantage of it. Everybody should take advantage of it.
They've kind of co-opted it, right? Like a lot of the people on the far right have co-opted it.
Everybody
and with the Count Dankula thing that you're saying, Veedu, what the left has done is that they have taken the bait, right? They've taken the bait. They're basically saying that, like, this guy, he made a joke. Now, Count Dankula, like, he may not have been the greatest guy. He may have been otherwise normally a lot of people might just consider him a mediocre or comedian or whatever. But since this whole case happened, now he's a free speech hero. Okay, he's a free speech martyr. Milo Yiannopoulos became
a free speech hero.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's my point. You have people like this guy Milo Yiannopoulos. He's a free speech hero now because people are trying to shut him down. So when that happens, is we turn morons into martyrs.
Okay,
right?
No matter how moronic
these people don't deserve. They don't deserve that.
Actually, they do deserve that. No matter how idiotic their views are, if they're actually taking a risk for our free speech, I don't care how stupid they are. I don't care how much I disagree with their views. I appreciate anybody that is fighting. At this point, given how our free speech is being threatened, anybody, even the fucking jihadists, if it comes and fights for free speech, I'm going to be like, okay, thank you
Richard
for
Spencer.
Anybody that fights for free speech right now, okay, I support that part of it. I won't support anything else to say, but the fact that they are risking anything for the fact for us to be able to say what we want, that part of it I will support. No matter what.
I like using the approach of, okay, this person is an asshole, but he should be able to say what he wants to say. That's my view. But I want to. So moving on to something else, is there a difference, Veedu, between when we're talking about free speech? Between this whole idea of deplatforming versus free speech. Like, for instance, Alex Jones is completely free right now. Alex Jones can go out, he can do rallies, he can say whatever he wants to anybody. He's not going to go to jail. In fact, if there's a rally and there's a physical threat to shut him down, he will get police protection. He is 100% free to express his views and say what he wants to say. So is Richard Spencer. So are all these people who've been banned off of Twitter and so on. They're all still completely free to say whatever they want to say. But YouTube has decided that they're going to kick Alex Jones off. Spotify decided to kick him off. All of these other people have decided to sort of deplatform them from their own private companies' social media platforms. So what is that different? Is that something that's defensible, or because there are some people who are now making the argument that these private corporations should be forced to allow everybody on their platforms and give them that equal opportunity, but that would also go against the free speech of the corporation. So where do you stand on it? Is this like a
this is a very interesting this is a very interesting conversation, and I think if there's a truly private company, it's up to them who they want on their whatever platform. If they want to ban someone, if they want to allow someone, that's their choice. So I might not like the fact that Twitter have banned, I don't know, for example, Tommy Robinson, Milo, and some other people. I might think, okay, you've got a bias, and they may have a bias. I think every company on some level has a bias, I mean, right wing or left wing. I don't think that they should be forced to do it as long as it's with their policies. Now, I actually remember watching a conversation with Jordan Peterson with some other, I think the name of the channel is a very good channel. It's called Valuetainment. You may have seen it. It's a very good interview with Jordan Peterson on that. And he was saying the same thing. Like, you believe in the free market, so you can't on one hand say, you know, everyone should be able to speak, but private companies can't make up their own choices. So, and you always complain about how the Hollywood is mostly left-wing and academic and blah, 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 is all left-wing. You right-wing guys who've got so much money and are capitalists, why can't you just make up your own platform? Why can't you just buy one of these companies? Why can't you fight fire with fire? And if you're saying, if you really want to protect free speech and all the rest of it, why can't you just play their game, but better? And I think
Gab.com did that.
No,
like
okay,
Gab,
that's okay. I will disagree with both of you here. First of all, when you are this big that you became a monopoly. First of all, it could be argued that these are not social media companies anymore. These are media companies. And if you're a media company, then you have to play by a different rules, right? You have to now you have.
But why? But if you're a media company, you still don't have to. You can fire people who you.
No. Okay, so yeah, you can. No, I mean you have then. There are some rules. I mean, you could argue that these laws are not justified, but there are certain rules that now you have to abide by, right? You can't. You have to be very transparent about your biases, for example. Another thing is that if these companies are this big, at some point, like they are now monopolies, like and given how big they are, the places where people are talking on them it could be considered, because public places. I understand it's a private company, but the thing is that they have made competition almost impossible with them. I mean, you remember, look at how they went after their targets. Like they all did it at the same time. So it seems like they're cooperating with each other, which is, even though each one of them, the target, the environment that they created, they have a monopoly over that. But now that they're also cooperating, it makes the monopoly even worse. So this whole argument that these are private companies would have made a lot more sense if there was a lot of competition against them. But look at what's happening to their competition. They're removing, what's that YouTube competitor to YouTube? BitChute, right?
BitChute, yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Minds is BitChute, yeah.
And they are they're so tiny, right? They're so tiny. But even though they're so tiny compared to YouTube, they're not letting them get away with it. The PayPal just shut their account down, right? Just recently, they're not making this competition fair. But go ahead.
Sorry, but can I say, sorry, go on, just very quickly. A lot of these companies, so that's why right at the beginning of I said if they are private, because a lot of these guys get subsidies or they get tax break. A lot of these Google, YouTube, whatever it is, they get a lot of deals from the government. If I was the government, I would say, if you want to ban the guy, fine, but you're not doing it as taking my money and then banning him at the same time.
No.
Like if they were truly private,
these people have so much.
I don't think they are truly private.
No, they have so much money. They have so much lobbying power. No politician would be able to stand up with them again. I think if they want to play by the rules that we're a private company, we get to do whatever we want. They need to be there needs to be some serious competition against them. Like these are anti-monopoly, and like the market share of these companies are more powerful than governments now. Look at fucking Amazon. Look at they're now Amazon is now moving to close to the capital. You know why they did that? Because they're gonna be going on the same restaurants, same parties with all the politicians.
It's also close to Jeff Bezos' house.
And they're going to start doing deals with they're going to be doing deals with the military. These are going to be, $1 million deals. Our opinions is not going to matter very soon. Like this
I think, Armin, that's this is a different conversation. I'm just talking about.
I'm just saying the direction.
Supposing they're not private.
No, I'm just saying this whole argument that now I was the same on the same. I had the same mentality, and yes, if they're private, they should be able to do whatever they want. But
what if they're not private? So my
direction the direction we're heading, that these companies at some point are going to be able to do whatever they want. They're completely destroying anybody else that wants to provide any other platform, and these companies at some point will become more dangerous than governments when it comes to the amount of influence they have over what we say.
Okay, so that's. But I want to talk about just one thing. I just want to talk about free speech versus restricting free speech versus deplatforming. So you have, supposing it's a public institution, some sort of it's a college or university, and they have decided that Richard Spencer wants to hold an event there, and they're like, oh no, we're not going to have Richard Spencer there. Now that legally that does not impinge on Richard Spencer's free speech, because he's free to hold any event anywhere that agrees with him and that consents, and he can say anything he wants to. He's not going to go to jail. He's not going to be criminally charged. And again, if he says something and there's physical threat to him, he will get the police and law enforcement to protect him from saying, to be able to say whatever he wants to say. I mean, these KKK rallies often have police protection, and often the KKK rallies have black policemen protecting them. So it's really, I mean, there are pictures of that all over the place. So they have their right to free speech hasn't been
and all that is that good, but what's the point?
No, it's not impinged on iota.
Yeah, but you're giving an example that I agree with. I'm talking about the example that I disagree with.
But I'm trying to. What I'm trying to say is that we conflate this conversation about platforming or deplatforming and the choices of certain institutions. Public and private to deplatform or platform people versus whether their free speech rights are being impinged. So, those are two different things.
Yeah, but we're not doing that here, because I agree with that. I agree with you on that. If you don't get a platform, you don't have a right to a platform, right? And if you think like, oh, I got deplatformed, so I have no free speech, you can say, no, that's that bad policy. Maybe you should have given him a platform. It would have been a great conversation, but it's not against your free speech. You could just go get another venue and speak over there. But what I'm saying, when we're talking about different, we're not talking about a private university platform or something else. When we're talking about platforms now that are going to become more and more and more the places where people are having the discussions, and it's going to be such a high percentage of our discussions that is going to be competing with discussions on everywhere else. Like it's going to be kind of the same as public spaces. You know what I mean? Like if you're not on here, if you're not on any of these platforms, you are like as if you don't exist, right? And if these platforms are becoming that big and these companies have full control over it, then as much as worried we are about how government can control public discussions on public spaces, now these entities that control these other platforms, we need to figure out, well, these environments are as important to have these discussions as public spaces. Like how these companies are now as important to figure out how they're managing our speech as governments.
Veedu, you're making a face where it looks like
I'm just thinking, because why do I have a guaranteed right to be on YouTube? I don't have a guaranteed right to be on YouTube.
You don't, and I'm not saying that you should. I'm not saying I'm not talking about what is legally your right or not. I'm talking about the trend that is troubling, right?
Because the cultural aspect, we agree with that. Yeah, I think that.
So, but if our discussion is going to be always like, well, they have the right to do it and whatever, well, then at some point, unpopular opinions are not going to have a voice.
No, but I'm trying to explain how when we're talking about the far right, how that became a free speech issue is because they co-opted it. There isn't really there's a cultural conversation about free speech, but we need to start framing this conversation not as a free speech conversation, but as a platforming conversation. A free speech impingement, right. I'll tell you, actually, is the right is actually worse on it. I mean, when Donald Trump says that NFL players should be fired, or that you shouldn't be allowed to kneel, when the president of the head of the government is actually saying that I want to open up libel laws against journalists.
Free speech because he's the government.
That is actually an impingement against free speech, right? And that's coming from the right. But there's no, as far as a stupid, like it is complete idiocy when people on the left go and try to shut down speakers and everything. That's insane. And when it's violent, it's criminal. I completely agree with that. But I think that it's more of a platforming. It's the right to a platform. Who should have the right to a platform? Which companies can we compel to give people a right to a platform, and when should we not, or should we at all? That's, I think, a completely different.
So what's going to happen? What might save us, okay, is that China is trying to do everything bigger and better than the United States, and they're going to build their own social media platform. And when they make their own social media platform, they're going to also try not to make it only Chinese. They're also going to make it English versions of it for like American, people, or UK people, or Canadians start using Chinese competing social media platforms outside of China. And I think China doesn't care about peace itself.
Oh, they're gonna create the first embryonic stem cell clone too.
I mean, they care about.
Everything we have regulations.
I think China, as long as you don't shit on China's government, then like they're gonna have. You can shit on China on Facebook, and then you could go to China's social media platform and shit on.
But
Islam.
That's a whole other conversation. So Veedu, I want to get back to.
Wait. Mars has a question. Mars was surprised that you don't get death threats. But the reason why I think you don't get death threats is because you're very careful about the kind of messages that you put out there. Like you don't go after sacred. You go after Zakir Naik or other people like that, but you don't go like the shit I do. Is like that's why I like about our movement is because we have different people for different kind, so we have some people that go after Allah and Muhammad and everything that they hold dear and sacred.
Burn the Quran.
And burn the Quran. And that works. People don't believe
it. Does work.
It does work sometimes. Yeah. And then we have other people that were like, well, some people that's way too sensitive for that. Well, but then we have somebody like Waleed, so I mean it's good to basically cover all types of
100%. I mean I never think or believe that my way is the only way,
right?
Or that my way is the most effective. I think we should hit them from all angles. For me, it's like if you want to burn up Quran or you want to do Allah is gay, go for it. If you want to do Zakir Naik, go for it. If you want to do a refutation or a calm conversation, go for it. I don't see why we have to limit ourselves to only one way of speaking. Absolutely. So I mean, I would like what you're doing is like when I saw your video, I was going, wow, this guy's got some huge cojones to go out there and do this. Honestly, I was like, wow, that's incredible. I personally wouldn't do that, but I kind of like supporting you, like, yes, Armin, go ahead and do it because it needs to be done, So I agree.
Sorry, Ali, I interrupted you. You were asking a good question.
I can't remember what it was.
Okay, I remember one of your questions that you didn't get to ask. You asked about his parents, whether they agree.
So, we were going back to this is going back to your leaving Islam story. So it happened, you said, about 3 years ago, and you hated Richard Dawkins and all these people, and then you kind of became one of them. Okay, I'm kidding, but so how did your parents, by the way, where are you from? You don't have to answer this if you don't have to, but which area of the UK are you generally?
London.
Yeah, so how did they react to it? Like, what did they...
Yeah, I think how did they react to my ex-Muslim, or how did they react to Veedu Vidz?
To you, both actually. First, when you left Islam, did you tell them, or did they find out when you started?
No, I told them. I told them because I said, listen, man, like I just don't believe it anymore. And at first they were a bit like, they were never angry or violent or nothing like that. My parents are good people, man, which is probably why I was comfortable telling them in the first place. If I knew that they were like crazy, I probably would never have said anything.
Yeah.
But we used to always have, me, my father and my mother always have very long debates about religion from a very young age. So it wasn't nothing new for me to talk about religion with my parents in a very open way. So when I told them, they were like, oh, okay, this is probably one of his phases. They were like, okay, chalo, theek hai, chalo, okay, do your thing. You know, he'll come round in a few months or a few years. It's not a big deal. He'll come round. But when they realized that I'm not coming round, they were, like I said, I'm like, this may be too much information, but I'm living with my parents. I see them every day. There's no like, oh terrible, oh my god, this guy, like, oh, he's gonna go hell. There's no verbal abuse, no physical abuse, nothing. My parents obviously are not over the moon about it, because I went to a Muslim school for 3 years. I went to Quran school after school. Like I went to Quran lesson, like, you know, reading Tajweed and Quran, this and that, every day after school. I went to Saturday school for so Islam was a very big deal, like part of our lives. And I was the sibling that took the most interest in Islam. So it's kind of like, I thought this guy would at least stick around with Islam, but you know, that didn't work out. But there was never any sort of ill feelings towards me or anything like that. Obviously, there's disappointment. Now, when I started doing Veedu Vidz, the first few videos are like, very funny, yes. But Mom's like, okay, like, can you leave the Maulvis alone now? Can you just do something political? Do something like on Imran Khan or something. Like, just leave Islam out of it. We got it. You're very good at that. But move on. And I was like, but I haven't even got started yet. You know, the party hasn't even begun yet. I'm just getting in my groove. So that's always been a bit of a not friction, but just a bit of like beta kuch aur kar lo, you know, like son, do
they watch your videos? Do they watch it?
In the beginning they did. They enjoyed it, but then now I'm like, okay, don't watch my videos because you won't get it, and it looks very offensive, but trust me, it's not that offensive. But you don't get my humor and that kind of stuff. So my dad started watching it. My mom watches it from time to time. She's like, but again, kya kar rahe ho apni zindagi ke saath, which means like, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing? Do something else, whatever it is. Yeah. And Mom, don't watch it, whatever. But other than that, honestly, I love my parents, and I think they're amazing parents. If only Muslim parents were like my parents. It's just like, you know, it's like, for example, if I was doing medicine and I changed from medicine to like arts, that's the kind of disappointment it is. It's not like this guy me to kill him, me to get, you know, out of our house. Nothing like that. It's more like, what are you doing with your life, and just fix up, and okay, do you have to be public about it? Can you just like keep it quiet, whatever it is?
I did both of those things. I switched from medicine to art too, but I have a similar thing with my parents. But there's one thing that I related to is that, you know, when I wrote the book, my mom, even on the day that the book was released, she said, you know, beta, it will do well, inshallah. Right? I was like, the book is called The Atheist Muslim.
Oh yeah, actually, I have a similar experience. I was
like, that should have been a blurb on the cover.
You should have.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. I didn't know that. Did you already mention this, Ali? Because
I've mentioned it a bunch of times. But the thing is that she gets really upset, like with my Facebook post. She's like, you know, the way you write your book is so nice, but what about your Facebook post? Why do you do that? Why do you have to make people angry? So she has a problem with that. She has issues with it.
I eventually made my mom an atheist, but before, when I was starting Atheist Republic, she mentioned she started doing prayers for Atheist Republic to be successful. Yeah, and I was like, Mom, you're asking God for my war against them to be successful? That makes no sense.
Wow. Oh yeah, we had this conversation.
You know, she said, you know, a mom has to do what a mom has to do.
I respect that.
No, but we are kind of privileged in terms of, you know, what you're saying about the death
100%.
threats. It's the same thing that I've noticed that I think about 10 years ago, when I was first doing this stuff, lots of death threats all the time. Like it was the norm. But I have noticed that, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, you know, especially since people got desensitized to these cartoons and all of that, last 3 or 4 years, it's decreased a lot dramatically. Where it hasn't decreased is, you know, like the women, the ex-Muslim women I know, like my wife.
Yes.
Lots of rape threats, lots of sexualized stuff. But with me, nobody seems to, and she has a different approach too, but even this independent of approach, just even other ex-Muslims that I talk to, not a lot of threats for the men, but lots of stuff for the women.
Well, I mean, I do get, I mean, to be fair,
I agree.
Yeah.
But Armin, you're on another level, bro.
No. But to his point, to Ali's point, my wife gets a lot of threats because of the stuff I do. So you're right. The women do get it way worse. Like even my wife is not even an activist, and she's getting messages because of all this.
Me and my wife, when we were filming for, I don't know if you watched one of my videos, but I go around London asking people, can we criticize Muhammad or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that. It was great.
Yeah. So for that video, when I have been recognized outside, either someone knows me and they don't like me, but they don't say anything, or they're like, "Oh, it's Zakir Naik, bro, ha ha ha." With my wife, she says the amount of time, and a lot of them is from girls. The amount of time girls give her dirty looks, like normally women in hijab, like, "No, I don't want to talk to you. I know who you are," whatever, that kind of stuff. And the amount of dirty looks she gets, because it's probably harder. Because as a guy, maybe it's I was saying to my wife in a sort of bragging kind of way, I was being saying, "Bro, they're gonna mess with me. I'm 6 foot. Have you seen this? They're gonna mess with me. And look, you 5'4", whatever." But I was like, maybe they don't mess with me. But maybe I think it's because they can't handle the fact that a woman has come out and said what she has said and is unapologetic about it. She's taken off the hijab. She's speaking openly and clearly. And it's one thing for a guy to say, "Jolo TK, we'll excuse that." But the women, this happens in all cultures and societies. The women are more precious. They're more, we have to protect them. They can't say this. They can't, for biological reasons, evolutionary reasons, whatever you want to call it. Nevertheless, it's no different in this case. My response has been largely positive when someone recognizes me. With my wife, I don't think there's been one positive response. Maybe because she's much more brutal than me. I'm more of a pussycat when it comes to this kind of stuff. And she's like, no, go further. I'm like, no, it's fine.
That's like me and my wife too.
She has her own channel, right? Can you?
Yeah, she has her own channel.
Yeah, Mimsy. We were going to actually invite her onto the podcast too.
Oh yeah,
I mean, she actually was watching your podcast quite a lot. She goes, they have like really interesting conversations, and So I'm gonna we want to have actually both of you here.
Blonde Infidel in the live chat is saying Mimsy is great. Also, Reason on Faith is saying, how does your leaving Islam timeline intersect with Hassan Radwan in your life?
This is an interesting story. So, for those of you who don't know, Hassan Radwan is my wife's father. So he's my father-in-law, and he was like one of the first. Yes.
Who's Hassan?
Everything's like this, bro. Everything's like this. It's all the Matrix.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's great. Yeah.
Okay, can you give background? What the hell's going on? Hassan Radwan.
Yeah.
So, so basically, I did not know. So he was one of the first ex-Muslims on YouTube in the UK. I think so. Anyway, I remember I was in university. This is back in 2009 or 2010. I can't remember. And I was watching his videos talking about Islam, why it's not true, heaven, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know who he was, right? And at the time, I was like, you know what? I can't say anything against his videos. Like, I was watching them thinking, shit, there must be a mistake here somewhere. There must be somewhere where he's misinterpreted something or being illogical or being an idiot. I couldn't find anything in his videos that was wrong. At the same time, I was like, but I'm a Muslim. But I was like, I had no answer. So I actually took one of his videos and showed it to my dad. And his dad was like, okay, I'll have to think about this. I'm not sure. So I don't know who he was. I just knew that I had watched his videos. Many years later, when me and my wife got serious and I met his dad, met our father, and I was like, oh, you're the guy. And I left Islam not because of him per se, but he was there and I knew about him, but without knowing that it's my wife's father. Wow. So I didn't even know.
So it was a coincidence.
I was watching my sorry?
It was a coincidence.
Genuinely, people think, oh, you left Islam because genuinely had nothing to do with him. In fact, he didn't even talk about religion.
That's
with
so
me,
bizarre. Like London is like a huge city. What are the odds of that happening?
That must have been pretty cool, though. It's like, you're just finding you get into this.
People,
and then he's like, I have a cool father-in-law.
It's a miracle.
People always think, oh, you left Islam because of him. He did not even speak to me about a religion.
So is he a fan? Is he a fan of you now?
Oh, of course. He helps me a lot on it. Like a lot of the videos, like I make some of them now. I send the script to him beforehand. Or say, does this make sense and whatever. And he's like the best proofreader you can imagine because he knows all this stuff inside out, wherever it is. And he also, he's been on some of my videos as well. So I'm very lucky to have a father-in-law who's also a great guy and also one of the godfathers of ex-Muslimicness in the UK. But people will say, "Oh, you have time," because he didn't speak to me about religion that much in the beginning. Because he's a very polite guy. He's not going to go up and say, "Oh, so what do you think about religion? You're so stupid." He doesn't do that. He's just a normal guy. And only when I started speaking to him about it and say, "I've got these doubts and this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense."
Oh, yeah, I know him. I know this guy. I think we're friends. Yes. Sorry if you're watching, because I'm better with faces than names. So sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
No, I've been reading him and following him for a very long time.
Yeah, and we message each other on Facebook, and he actually messaged me recently. So sorry, I do know. I hope this is I'm a big fan actually. So sorry if I
even was going to have him on the podcast. I think maybe about a year ago or something, and then it kind of I didn't follow up. But now that you've reminded me, I really need to get him on here because especially about when he talks about Muslim identity, I think that's really interesting. What a Muslim, and I think that Armin and him will have an interesting discussion about.
He's been on Abdullah Samir's YouTube channel. Which Abdullah? Okay.
I think that by the way, Veedu, I think what you and the two Abdullahs and the Harris Sultan and Hassan Ridwan, all these guys, and Mimsy and some of the women that are coming in, I hope there are more women who come forth too. But this stuff, I think what you guys are doing is really you're bringing a kind of nuance to this because you do have. You're not just about Islam. You're also about, well, my parents are Muslim. I want to know how I can reach out to them. It's not just a matter of, making a point, but it's also about making a change, as I said. But I wanted to go back to, the thing that you were saying about the women, how they're treated differently. I was just thinking when I was growing up, even living in Saudi Arabia, my dad's friends, a lot of them were influenced by, socialism and Marx and, all of that. So they used to talk much more openly about atheism and things like that, or at least were open to it, and they were okay with considering certain things, and they'd have these living room conversations. But the women never did, and that's fascinating to me because I think there's an association of a woman, if she's not religious, she cannot. It's tied with morality. She's not religious. Oh, and then she can drink. You can have sex with her. You can do whatever. She'll do anything. There's that aspect too. So I think they're demonized a lot more. There's this idea that they're.
It's also about It's also about ownership. If a man leaves Islam, we're like, oh, whatever, he's lost. But if a woman leaves Islam, we're like, that's our woman. You know what I mean? That's something that. This belongs to the Ummah. That belongs to the Muslim community. You can't just take that away, right? So it's kind of I think, sense of ownership over women that makes it more sensitive when women leaves.
I think this point about women cuts across all races or philosophies or whatever. A lot of the alt-right, our white women with black guys. I'm like, why is it your woman? I mean, she's her own woman, right?
When you say your woman, so when a white woman sleeps with a black man, they say, oh, you're taking our woman. It's an ownership thing. It's it's treating them like property. That's why it's more sensitive. The example you give is exactly the same. Our woman, our.
Can I say when I was in very quickly. When I was in university. We had some friends, in our room. This is before, before a night out, let's say, to the student union or the bar, whatever it was. I wasn't going that day, but anyway, I had some more of my Muslim friends, and one of my Muslim friends, he was a known drinker, right? He used to drink so much, but anyway, and he goes to clubs and bars and whatever it is, whatever. There was this one girl who came into my room. She used to live not far from me. And she's a very nice girl. She's a Muslim girl, but she was wearing miniskirt. She was makeup, dolled up, maybe a bit tipsy. I'm not sure. I don't think she was tipsy anyway. So she came in my room and I was on the computer like this, whatever it was. And them two are behind me. And he looks at her like this. And he's looking up. And then he goes, he speaks to me in Urdu. And he goes, Waleed, I said, is this our girl? He was shocked that, he's okay with white chicks doing it and everyone doing it. But he goes and at the time I didn't get what he said. I thought, oh, what? He goes, oh, nothing. Afterwards, she comes up to me because she was Pakistani as well. So she understood. So she goes, why did your friend say that about me? I said, well, what did he say? He goes, oh, is this our girl? As in, like, our girl can't be dressing like that, can't be drinking, wearing makeup like that.
Okay, so if
she's coming from a guy who drinks all the time.
Pakistani means if she's Pakistani, that thinks it's
Pakistani.
It's our girl if she's Pakistani. That's fucking bizarre. That's fucking...
Yeah, so Pakistan is Muslim and Islam, or Pakistani, it's kind of like the same thing.
It's all mixed up, yeah.
It's so fucking stupid. It's not she's not yours. You don't even fucking know her. Like, what the fuck?
You know her, but because she's Pakistani, and I feel bad saying this, but my uncle, he once came to pick me up this was like on my last day of university. I was like moving out back home. And he's an old school. I love him a lot, but he's a bit old school. In the entranceway to my halls, there was this one Indian girl. I didn't even know her. She was just like whatever, lived a level below me, and she was wearing like the shortest shorts and smoking a cigarette. Like, hola wala kota. Two things: smoking a cigarette, and she had short. And he stood there like his jaw dropped to the ground, and then he walked past. And I don't know why. I said I felt really bad now, but I said, "I'm sorry you had to see that." He goes, "No, beta. What is this? Fine, she's in university, but does this mean you have to wear shorts and smoke a cigarette?" And he was visibly perturbed by the sight of a girl just sort of casually smoking a cigarette like this and just whatever, wearing short shorts. But they have this tribal thing.
Why are you saying sorry to them? Go tell them.
I felt, because this was the first time he'd come to my university, and he was excited to see me. And the first thing he sees is this brown girl.
I used to... Yeah, so sorry, finish what you're saying.
Yeah, I was just wearing shorts and smoking a cigarette. No deal. And she's not even paying attention, like whatever. And he's like, what the hell is this crap?
I used to like going up to like the hijabi girls and burqa clad girls, even in Pakistan, and asking them for. I had a cigarette. I was like, "Hey, do you have a lighter? Or do you have a spare cigarette?" It was so much fun because, like, on the one hand, they don't want you to assume that they're different from anybody else. Yeah, I'm like, okay, listen, do you have an extra cigarette? I could, and they just look at you like, why would you think I smoke? Don't you see this thing on my head? And it was just that was always a blast.
I don't understand, because in Iran, smoking has nothing to do with Islam. I don't.
Yeah, no, because in Iran, most of the women who are wearing the thing on their head are doing it not because they want to. We're talking about places where
when I was raised in a Muslim country, nobody ever, like, this whole, even among religious people, there was nothing about smoking that made it un-Islamic. This is actually
but what I'm saying is that in, for example, in places like Iran or Saudi Arabia, you're going to find a lot of hijabi girls who smoke because everybody is compelled to wear hijab in public. Everybody has to wear it. But in Pakistan, like most women don't wear the hijab in public, right? So, well, that's
I understand that, but I'm saying even among religious women that would do the extra hijab because they are religious,
they would think that smoking is
okay. Go on. But in Iran, smoking is not seen as something
taboo
or anything.
Over there, it's different. It might be a cultural thing.
I mean, I guess it should be a taboo, but go on.
Yeah. So I wanted to. We're kind of out of time, so I know, Veedu, you have to go too.
This identity has in the live chat asking a good question. We should ask that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask the same thing. I wanted to close with this. Is that what are your influences in terms of any comedians, actors, authors? I mean, he's saying Western comedians, but even non-Western authors, comics, people who sort of influence you. I mean, are you a stand-up comedy fan? Do you like? Are there certain favorites and stuff that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I can go for a bit longer if you want. I don't mind. Maybe like 10 or 15 minutes if you want. No problem.
Sure. That'd be great. Yeah.
I'm happy to take more questions if you want. But I'm just having so much fun. I feel like this is so cool. Anyway,
I know this is a lot of fun.
I love this. So I would say influences. I mentioned before Ali G. In the UK when he first came out. I didn't watch him when he first came out because I wasn't allowed to watch that kind of stuff when I was younger anyway, because he's very sort of sexual and vulgar, whatever it is. But later on
did you see Ali G in the House, the movie?
Yeah, I watched it many years later. Yeah. I didn't watch it when it first came out. I think Sacha Cohen is an absolute genius. I think that guy, I just don't know what it is. He's just got it. Whatever it is,
incredible. He's incredible.
He's a genius. So my favorite character was Ali G because, when you're young, you think you're gangster, innit, bro? Like, yeah, you get what I'm saying, though, innit, man? So he was that kind of guy who was white but thought he was black and thought he was hip when he really wasn't. So a lot of the like sort of middle class brown and white people who thought they were really gangster because they listened to Tupac. Well, that was me. So he really sort of resonated with that kind of crowd. and he really, really took the piss. But like, I enjoy his interviews even more than the film. Like when he's speaking to Noam Chomsky, when he's speaking to Trump back in the days, when he said, "I've got a brilliant business idea." When you eat an ice cream, what happens? Or it melts. So I've got so he goes, "Okay, so what's the idea?" And Trump actually very good. He actually says something good. What an ice cream that doesn't melt? He goes, "No, I was thinking of wearing a glove, so when you eat an ice cream, it doesn't go on your hands." Anyway, so he was trying to sell this idea.
I know, yeah. But he went to Andy, he was interviewing Andy Rooney, right, who's this like media icon, this old like grumpy man. And then Andy Rooney's like, "Okay, listen," he stopped it. He's like, "I'm done. I'm not interviewing." I'm done. And he's like, "Oh, is it because I was black?"
Yeah, exactly. What, because I was black? Yeah, it's just a bit. And then he goes to Andy Rooney. He said to him, "Does you think whatever the media has changed?" Does you think the media has changed? And he's like, "It's do you think?" He goes, "No, does you think?" He goes, "No, or maybe it's because of English American translation."
Yeah, I know, the American British.
It's just brilliant.
It was just
so he's definitely one of my inspirations. I like Dave Chappelle. I like Bill Burr. There's Key and Peele. There's probably some more inspirations as well. To be honest with you, I don't know if you watched this old show. I don't know if you watched it. It came on Pakistani channel. Anwar Masood, is that his name?
Oh yeah, Anwar Masood.
Yeah, he was brilliant. That guy. He used to like dress up as different characters every week, and he had that sort of. Yeah, so I thought he was amazing as well. But I was
any like old school type, like the because I remember I got my start.
Mars is saying
years old.
Yeah.
Because I had Eddie Murphy, the Raw, and those things.
Eddie Murphy. But I watched that stuff after, like obviously when you go on YouTube, all this stuff is now on YouTube. Now I watch this stuff afterwards. But growing up, my early thing was all about Ali G and that kind of comedy, just sort of taking the mick. I thought it was brilliant.
So Mars in the left chat is saying, Veedu, you're hilarious. Curious if you have ever taken anything from George Carlin's book.
Oh, I was going to mention that. I love George Carlin.
George Carlin, I've watched him, and I think he's a like sharp mind, very good comedy, and even his rants are just like, when I was watching his stuff, I was like, shit, man, this guy's pretty intense. Like, even as a Muslim, I was like, how do I get around this? But I wouldn't say that style of comedy necessarily is my kind of comedy. My more is like sort of imitation and sort of like impersonation kind of stuff. So that's where Ali G, Key and Peele, Dave Chappelle, that kind of stuff resonates with me more, or I get it more, or I want to emulate that more than sort of a George Carlin sort of, or even Eddie Murphy. Actually, Eddie Murphy's done some skits.
Oh, Eddie Murphy was amazing with his Michael Jackson impression when Michael Jackson starts crying, and Mr. T. Well, I mean, some of those things are completely. He did this in the '80s when homophobia was cool and it was funny. So it doesn't work anymore. But I mean, some of that early shit was incredible.
Oh,
yeah.
So, one thing I want us to do eventually, maybe one day, is like if all the ex-Muslim YouTubers and podcasters get in meet with each other, like you could get like in London or somewhere, because it seems like most of you guys are in London for some reason. I'm very jealous of all, like Imtiaz is there, you guys are there. Who else is there? There's some other people.
I thought they're mostly in North America because you guys are there.
But North America is not like one city, but London has a lot of, I don't know, London city.
More ex-Muslims per capita.
Yeah, more ex-Muslims per capita than anywhere else.
Yeah,
but
is it what is it like? Is there are you noticing a rise in the ex-Muslim, because you have a very significant Muslim community there?
Mariam is there. Mariam Namazi is there.
Oh yes, Mariam Namazi is there. Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know, man. To be honest with you, I think when I'm on YouTube, I think all you guys are in North America. I don't know why. Maybe I get this perception like a lot of you are there. The only ones that I know here are Mariam Namazi, Imtiaz, my wife and my father-in-law. Are there any? I don't know if there are any more prominent ex.
Yeah, Jimmy Banger.
Jimmy's here. But I mean, like for example, you've got Sarah Hayden, you've got Mohammed Saeed, you've got yourself.
But
we do have a lot more.
But you're comparing but you're comparing one city with North America, right?
Like, no, he's talking about all of the UK.
It's London and then outside. He's
talking about all of the UK. But the UK is essentially London. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it is. Let's get rid of it.
I'm kidding. Yeah. No offense to anybody else.
I mean, in Vancouver, I don't Like, okay, like what ex-Muslim YouTubers in Vancouver? We don't have anybody, right? Like, than me, I guess. I mean, I wish.
Yeah, like, but you're right. Like Abdul Samir and Abdullah Gondal, these guys are both in Canada. There's more actually in Canada than anywhere else. Yasmin is in Canada.
Canada has more ex-Muslims per capita than the US for some reason.
I
don't understand.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But it is, like, the thing is, it's rising. I'm telling you, man, 10 years ago, I could count them on. There was there was Mariam Namazi's Ayan Hirsi Ali, there was Salman Rushdie, there were like maybe 3 or 4 other people and there were a bunch of us, like friends that I knew. Everyone was kind of in the closet, but now this thing is, it's just so diffuse. I remember in 2006 when I first saw those cartoons, the Danish cartoons, or was it 2006? Yeah, it was around that time.
Yeah.
Like I remember being shocked, and I was like, "Wow, someone actually put this out. It's available on the internet." It was really strange because you could not. That's not something you'd see on even online that much. And then now, you go.
This is everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's very different. I think that that makes a huge difference, and it's encouraging.
I think that's why we're getting more ex-Muslim. Like your content, Ali's book, all the pages and YouTube channel. This is why more people are leaving Islam faster than ever before. But
I think I got to give a special credit to you guys, Veedu, your wife, the Abdullahs, and all everything that you guys are doing. Because I think that you're getting a lot of the Muslim audience as well. I think that it's going beyond Imtiaz as well. He's excellent. So it's not just a matter of having the conversation within ourselves and doing our own thing and our own little sort of support group where everybody tells us stories, etc. But this is sort of like the next step, reaching out, having debates with others, talking to them, and that's kind of what Armin and I are trying to do too. So I like this next phase.
There's basically two different activism, creating a community for the people that have left and also reaching out to the people that might want to join us, right? And I think they're both different, but they're all very important.
Dawah.
Dawah. Anyway.
By the way, I just want to make sure I read this identity saying Godless Spell Checker and his co-host Iriam Ramzan are also in London.
Oh, no, Iriam Ramzan, Okay.
I don't know who that is.
Godless Spell Checker, you have to meet him. He's very good.
Oh, no, I know him, but I don't know who Iriam Ramzan is. So.
Yeah, but I've seen the name around quite a bit. I think she's one of the, like, there were a lot of people like Ali Aslim, and these are people who've been on in these videos and so on. So there are, I mean, those are people in the community, but I guess we're talking about the people who have their own like YouTube channels and they're podcasters and stuff like that. So,
by the way, where can people find you and also Mimsy? Mimsy, wait, before you actually say that, what kind of content Mimsy makes for people that don't know?
I love it. It's great. Yeah.
So far,
I've seen it.
Yeah. So far, Mimsy has made quite a few videos. I mean, she made a YLF Islam video, which went viral. Like, literally, that was the video where everyone in my family, bloody hell, found out. Before, it was just my immediate family who knew, and maybe a few other cousins. But that one, but to Pakistan, and getting phone calls, and why is this happening? Anyway, so she made that video. She's made a video on women in Islam. Her video is more sort of commentary kind of video. She does some vlogs, some makeup tutorials, because she loves makeup and she's a girly girl. I don't think she'd have any offense me saying that she is a girly girl. She likes it. So she's like, I'm a girl. I'm talking about Islam, but I also am talking about what I enjoy, which is makeup and vlogging and all that kind of stuff. So she does that kind of stuff, and she's got many other interesting videos coming up. I don't want to give any spoilers, but you can find both of us on YouTube and Facebook, Mimsy Vidz or Veedu Vidz, and just type it in. You'll find us. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the rest of it.
Are you guys going to do a video together?
They already have.
Yeah. Oh, you have. Okay.
And you disagree, and it's very sweet, like it's so interesting. Like, you guys have great discussions with each other, and it's so interesting to be able to see that. Like, a lot of people know, like, I'm telling you guys, like, a lot of people see you as a great comedian, but you're also, like, I think that's a underrated part of more people should also know you about the way you have serious discussions as well, because those are very well done as well. And
almost every comedian that I respect and admire is extremely intelligent and very good when you actually talk to them about the serious stuff as well. That's where it comes from. That's actually where it comes from, because as said, the Jordan Peterson impression, the reason that I enjoy it so much isn't just because you've nailed the voice and the impression, the technical aspects of it, but also because you've got all of his word salad down. You know the content of what he says. You understand the thought process, the metaphysical substrate and, all of that other crap that...
Has he reached out? He should reach out. I'm surprised that he never reached out to you. Like, you're the only comedian that is, like, the main comedian, I think, that is, like... Like, yeah, I mean, he should be like, I don't know, like Maggie, I think, I mean, Richard should reach out to you. Richard Dawkins should reach out to you too. I mean, I would if I was them.
Well, I mean, I hope they see it and do something about it. But I mean, Jordan Peterson is like a rock star right now, and he's got a show like every day. I remember when he came to Britain, like last year, so this year, I was asking his publisher like every day, well in advance, and she's like, literally, I can't get anything. Like, everything is booked. Literally every hour of the day is booked.
Right.
And I would love to have a conversation with him. I think it'd be a very interesting conversation because the thing where I want to hold Jordan Peterson accountable is this. I like a lot of your stuff, Jordan Peterson. Don't get me wrong. I like it when we talk about religion, but when you start saying this stuff is more real than real, that's when you start losing me. When you start saying this kind of stuff, and I'm happy to have these conversations about stories and this is what it means and. Psychologically,
archetypes.
Love it. Absolutely, you've got me. You've got me. But when you start saying this stuff is real, that's a problem because maybe in the Judeo-Christian conversation you can get away with it, but you can't get away with it in the Muslim stuff because when you start saying stuff that
no, you can't get away with it in Judeo-Christian.
There's more leniency because no Christian guy's going to blow themselves up, all right? There's a bit more leniency. They've kind of they're not as interested in religion as the Muslim world is.
No.
Like the real manifestation, the ugly manifestation of more real than real is when you look at the Muslim world and they take this stuff literally. There is no metaphysical substrate in the Muslim world. Okay, maybe you can get away with it in... No, I'm sorry.
I don't think it's just about Islam. Whenever you start misrepresenting fiction as truth, I think that's dangerous everywhere. It
is, but I'm saying the more ugly manifestation of that whole argument is the Muslim world. So, like I said, you can get away with it maybe in the Western world where no one's really going to take it that seriously.
I would,
but they do take it seriously in the Muslim world, and stuff like blasphemy, apostasy, or oppressing women or oppressing minorities. That stuff is real. It's not metaphysical. It's not Jungian. It's legit real, and it sucks. So that's where I want to hold him accountable and say, listen. It's very easy talking to, Western people who are sophisticated, drinking wine and saying, oh, yeah, good Abraham, Bible. The foreskin thing was amazing, but yeah, okay, you can't do that in Muslim world. So have some perspective.
Yeah.
That's what.
Well, I hope he does end up on your show.
Are you going to do Sam Harris? We talked about it before going live on air.
So. Yeah, what was the issue? So you said that the one impression that you struggle with, I guess, is Sam Harris.
Because he's so calm. He's so calm and so monotone.
Okay, just take that and go extreme with it. Like even make it even more calm and more monotone than it. Like
this is major putting on the spot because this is something he said that
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think. What did he say? Like I can't even get the voice.
For example, whatever we're saying about it, just exaggerate that. For example, I don't know.
How can I exaggerate?
Imagine
like this.
This is like major. This is major putting him on the spot. Though. I don't know.
I don't mind it. I think it's fine. I mean, whatever. This is being spontaneous as a comedian is like that's where you get ideas from. It's like keeping the tool sharp. So, Islam. How do I get the voice? Islam is the motherlode of bad night. Nah, that's Jordan Peterson.
Okay, think about it.
But he's not saying that. Islam
just be like, just listen to some, I don't know, ASMR videos that just...
we'll work on that for next time.
No, just think about not going even a little bit up or a little bit low, like it's so monotone that you could fall asleep with it. Like, you just think about that. Like, don't try it now. But just be so much like I don't know, but I know. But by the way, that's part of I think Sam's appeal because I think a lot of people think that because a lot of people like somebody like Jordan Peterson, which is kind of like poetic, is selling people. It feeds into people's emotion, right? But I think a lot of people that just want the facts. Some people say, "Oh, if you're too monotone, you're not going to have an audience." But I think a lot of people think that. I feel like I'm just getting the facts and but nothing but the facts because of how monotone this is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
listen,
you feel like
absolutely.
nothing is being sold to you. Nothing is being, you know, you're not nobody's trying to convince you of something using your emotions. You're just being.
That's the one thing I really, really like about Sam, that he has an audience that even his own fans really hold him to account and are like probably one of his harshest critics. So he is very careful and very well thought out when he says something.
Right.
And his monotoneness, I think, is because like he's literally treading every step, like thinking 100 times, is this the right way to go? Is this the right way to go? He doesn't have that same leniency as some other speakers. But on the ASMR note, I was thinking of doing a comedy video of Zakir Naik giving ASMR. You know, okay, the brother asked a very good question. Well, something along those lines.
Wow, yeah, actually, can you do a...
What is ASMR? I don't know what that is.
ASMR is?
No.
It's the biggest thing, and it's huge in ASMR. But I would listen...
What is it, though?
Okay, so it's like... Okay, so it's like kind of like whispering in your ear, kind of like meditation, falling asleep, something to...
There's like so many different types. People would have like a fake massage, so they go to the mic and they'll like do this to the mic, and then when you wear headphones, it feels like you're...
But hey, you could do ASMR versions of each one of your speakers.
Yeah.
You could do like
I want to imagine that you're on psychological substrate of your own dreams.
Whatever.
But you need the right mic for that, because you have to hear every single like. But yeah, people could imagine if people like fall asleep to listening to you doing Jordan Peterson. You should do it, dude. You should do Jordan Peterson ASMR. Those keywords.
That's true, actually.
That video will get so many views because Jordan Peterson is such a high keyword like search for, and ASMR is also like one of the.
It
gets millions of.
Okay, that's my next video, guys. You heard it here.
Yeah, you heard it here.
Jordan Peterson, ASMR.
Yeah. Anyway, Veedu.
Where can people?
Sorry, were you going to say something?
No. Now, before we say goodbye, you have to tell us where people can find you.
So, literally, YouTube, Veedu Vidz, Veedu Vidz, or my wife, Mimzy Vidz, same M-I-M-Z-Y, Vidz, Vidz. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, just Instagram, whatever it is. Type in Veedu Vidz, you'll find us. And that's it. Just one last note. The people ask me, what does Veedu mean? What is Veedu? Like, where does that come from? Because people think it means either voodoo or it means Vedic, like Hindu, whatever it is. It actually is just...
Right?
No, go ahead.
Is it Vuzu? I wanted to guess before you say it.
No, Vuzu. No, it's not. Yeah. It's in Pakistan, and you instead of saying Waleed, which is actually the proper name, they say Waleed because they get their V's and W's mixed up, right?
Oh yeah, wedding video.
Wedding video. Yeah, exactly.
Volkswagen.
Exactly.
I've got a whole bunch of those. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. So Waleed. So when I was younger, everyone's like Waleed. But when I was in Pakistan, my nickname was Waleedu, Veedu Bhai. Veedu. That's it. Veedu is basically short for Waleed or Waleed. So it just became Veedu Vidz. That's it. That's it.
All right. Okay. See, I didn't know that. I thought it had to do with the video.
No.
Yeah.
I thought it had something to do with the zoo.
Yeah,
I did.
Amazing. That tells us more about us than it does about what the is. Like Armin's thinking about Wudu, I'm thinking about videos.
Right.
Yeah, I know. But hey, man, thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
This was a blast. I
loved it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So hopefully you can come back. I definitely want to get Mimzy on. I'm going to reach out to her too. So this was just so much fun. And thank you for doing the Jordan Peterson thing in the beginning.
Oh, no problem. Absolutely. And I would love for you guys to come on my show. We can do it the other way around as well. That'd be great in the future as well. I would love that.
Let's do it. I think Armin's already done some stuff with you, right?
Armin's like a regular now. He's like a regular. He's like
Yeah. So I have to come on. I know that there was this one time when that was.
I like when you have. I like that you're touching on some other very sensitive topics. And I like to be involved, in those. Yeah. Okay, so I want to make sure there's nothing taboo that people say. Like whenever people say, like, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't talk about that," or like, "Okay, that's what we're going to talk about now."
I remember the first conversation I had with Armin, there was like Islamic reform, but after that it was like, so why is incest bad? Do you remember that we were discussing?
Oh yeah, I know. Like some of these topics, like there's a lot of stuff about that. There's the race and IQ. Oh, by the way, the IQ thing. I know we were talking about the Ashkenazi. I want to end this note by saying that it's actually been shown consistently, study after study, that liberal atheists have consistently higher IQs than people who are religious and people who are conservative.
No, don't. Libertarian atheists. Libertarian.
There's nothing on. I've looked into that, Armin. We'll have that conversation later.
No.
There's nothing about libertarian.
Okay.
Nope. It's liberal atheists. It's
I'm okay with liberal. I'm a liberal, so.
Yeah.
But anyways, but not that you should be proud of that. You should not be proud of anything that you were born with, right? So
but you're not born a liberal or an atheist, so that's
no.
Everyone's
born a Muslim. Everyone knows that.
No. Okay.
I'm just saying
Ali,
that a lot of
Ali, I have to correct myself because that's not what I meant. Because you're born with your genetics has an influence on your IQ. And your IQ has an influence on whether you might become an atheist or a liberal or not, right? So that's what I meant. I mean, saying if you're born, if you're born with higher IQ, that's nothing to be proud of.
No. Sure. Yeah, we're not talking. What we're saying is that generally, if you meet somebody who's an atheist and liberal, they're more likely to have a higher IQ statistically. And the only reason I point this out is because. It's only because like there are a lot of super far right type people who really want to have this race IQ conversation. I'm like, okay, if you want to have that conversation, let's do it. Let's talk about the truth. But just remember that if you are conservative and religious, like the vast majority of them are, you're already in a lower category of IQ than me. So
is it because of the trait of the openness that has something to do with it? Because
novel evolutionary values. They're actually also more likely to be monogamous. Liberal atheists and people. High IQ in men is also associated with more proclivity to monogamy, which is interesting as well.
Wow!
Right.
But novel evolutionary values, right?
Wow.
Right.
But that it doesn't.
This is what I want to talk about as well.
Whatever toolkit nature has offered you, just use that the most. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Toolkit. That sounds sexual. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna wrap this up.
Let's thank our patrons in the live chat: Reason on Faith, Morris Chung, Niels Hiddy,
Disidentity,
Mike, Disidentity, Haifi, Abdullah Samir, Arsenal Mode. Read the rest.
Yeah. Lois, Princia, Kuro Nevens, and
Blondie Fidel, you're awesome.
And Hafi and this was Arsenal
and all the other patrons that are also supporting us. By the way, if you're a patron, I know that we mentioned these live streams last minute, so it's hard to catch them. And but if you are in our Facebook group, in our Patreon only Facebook group, it's more likely that you might notice it when we announce that we're going to have a live stream. But so try to join us in some of our live streams. But thank you for making this show possible. And
right.
So.
And if you like what you hear today, obviously, go to patreon.com/SJME. You can support us if you don't want to. And if you can't support us financially, you don't have to. Just give us a rating on iTunes, share this content wherever you want to. And we just like having you as an audience member. So thank you for the support. And everybody, thank you, Veedu. Thank you, Armin. All you guys.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
The secular jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadist.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.